the idea of surrendering became apparent. I cannot keep taking on other people's stress. I can't keep taking on other people's worries. It was Proverbs 17:16, and it said, "What good is money in the hands of a fool if they have no desire to seek wisdom?" I decided in that moment that even though I was experiencing one of the worst times of my life, I would do what my first grade teacher, Miss Boynton, taught me. Patrice, when you know something, you have a responsibility to share with friends.
Welcome to the I Decide Darlings podcast. I'm Erin.
And I'm Lisa. We are moms, wives, best friends, entrepreneurs, and authors of the book, I Decide, the happy little guide to living your best life. Pull up a chair, grab a glass of wine, and get ready to talk all things health, success, loss, money, family, and everything in between. These two besties won't leave anything off the table.
So get ready to laugh, cry, hear the tips, tools, and stories to give you the success you crave, the life you adore, and the future you deserve. You are listening to the I Decide podcast. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the I Decide Darlings podcast. I am Erin Lopez.
And I'm Lisa Cox. Welcome.
We are excited today, y'all. This is going to be a good one, so make sure you grab your pen and paper because we are going to learn lots today from our beautiful guest.
Stunning.
Oh my gosh, stunning. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you need to. And I have the honor of introducing today Patrice Washington, a best-selling author, captivating speaker, a hope-restoring coach to women that are eager to do meaningful work in the world. I love that. Can we say that again? Hope-restoring coach to women who are eager to do meaningful work in the world, who firmly believes they deserve to earn damn good money doing it. If this is not your truth, she is going to assure us that you have landed in the right place to listen to her with I Decide Darlings today. She has been named one of the top 25 influential leaders in personal development. She is a conscious thought leader and award-winning podcaster, which, by the way, I read this. I mean, how many? She's going to tell us millions of downloads. 20 million downloads, people. A prolific author, as well as a sought-after media personality, a renowned transformational speaker. And we are super honored to have you with us today, Patrice. Not only are you stunning, but your accolades, we didn't even touch half of them. So welcome to the I Decide Darlings podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. You guys are lovely. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. We love that you are talking finances. I mean, this is something Lisa and I talk about often as women, as entrepreneurs, and you are speaking truth into women throughout the world. And our question is, how did you get there? Tell us a little bit about who Patrice is. How did you get this? Because I don't think talking about finances is easy. So we'd love to hear kind of what got you to this point and hear a little bit of behind the scenes of this beautiful woman we're looking at right now.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you the story, guys, without leading you to my first I Decide moment, right?
Oh, we love
Because
that.
I wish I could say that I graduated from the University of Southern California, instantly launched a real estate and mortgage brokerage. It became a 7-figure business by 25 years old. And I wish I could tell you that I rode off into the sunset and I've just been having these mountaintop to mountaintop experiences, but I can't, right? The reason that I believe so strongly in helping people redefine wealth for themselves is because of my own journey and my own testimony. So let me take you back. 2007. I am 26 years old. I am running a 7-figure business. I'm engaged to, at the time, the love of my life. And I am 20 weeks pregnant. And I take a fall down the stairs that sends me into preterm labor. I literally get to the hospital, Cedars-Sinai in Beverly Hills, California. And I get to the emergency room and they say, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. This baby is coming any minute now." And my whole world flipped upside down. I did the only thing that I knew to do in that moment, and that was pray. And I called other people and asked them to pray for us. And what was supposed to be any minute now actually turned into me being on hospital bed rest for 10 weeks.
10 weeks?
10 weeks of hospital bed rest. And
Oh
as
my gosh.
if you all have children, every minute counts, right? So
Yes.
every day that baby can bake matters. And so while I'm in the hospital, I am watching the news, and left and right, I see the banks that my company works with every single day shutting down left and right. At the time, we have 16 loan officers and real estate agents, and they are calling me every day, freaking out. Deals are falling apart. Nothing is closing. Clients are threatening to sue. Like, all these things are going on because the recession was beginning. The bubble was bursting. And here I am in the hospital on bed rest. I can't even take myself to the restroom without support. So I definitely cannot help them. And I will never forget the day that my doctor came in and she said, Patrice, the belt around your waist is monitoring the baby. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't stop stressing out, and I don't know what you're stressing out about, but if you don't stop stressing out, you will leave here 2 years in a row with no baby. Because the year before, I had a son, same doctor, same hospital, same floor, who passed away after 5 hours in my arms.
Oh, Patrice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I made a decision in that moment to surrender. This is the first time in my life that the idea of surrendering became apparent, that I wasn't giving up because I wanted to see my baby come into the world, happy and healthy. But I was releasing the control that I thought I had over what was happening in the market, what was happening in the business and the bank accounts. And what I was like, I cannot keep tuning into this doom and gloom. I cannot keep taking on other people's stress. I can't keep taking on other people's worries. And I literally told my fiance at the time, I said, you have to tell them to stop calling me. Like, I'm not going to keep answering. And he actually took my laptop away, so I couldn't even look at anything work related, and brought me an iPod with gospel and praise and worship music, a Bible, and a red leather journal where I wrote songs and wrote poems and journaled these stories to my daughter, and sang off tune, by the way. And also I asked the hospital, I asked the nurse if they could take the TV off the wall. They literally came, to maintenance men, and took the TV off the wall. And I said, that was about 5 weeks into my stay. And so for the next 4 or 5 weeks, I was just committed to peace. I was committed to surrendering. I was committed to praising and just believing that my daughter would be fine. And so at 30 weeks, I gave birth to this beautiful baby. She was 3 pounds, but she was healthy. And when we left that hospital about a month later, because she, had her stay in the NICU, when we left the hospital, I left with my healthy, beautiful baby girl who was now 17 years old, ready to graduate from high school. But I left with that healthy baby. And what I would learn is I also left with a healthy amount of medical debt. So between my daughter and I, we racked up nearly $400,000 because of this, just about 4 months stay between the both of us. And so life as I knew it was completely upside down. Within a year, I had gone from this 7-figure business to literally scraping up change. We had exhausted all our savings, keeping things afloat, keeping team members on, paying all these mortgages for all these properties we owned. And it was one of the most humbling times of my life. And man, even though it was 16, 17 years ago, I don't know if you can see it. I still get chills.
I mean,
I have too.
I had tears too. I'm just going to say, I mean, here, this is crazy.
Yeah, it still hits me because I see it. And I remember what I felt like. And I remember the uncertainty. I remember the embarrassment and guilt that I felt because I had built this business that my family was so proud of. And even my friends were so proud of. And I was proud of, quite frankly. I'm, first generation American from South Central Los Angeles. I come from a neighborhood where, the statistics don't work in my favor. So for me to have had those opportunities felt like such a blessing. And then somehow I beat myself up for a period and felt like I blew it. And it wasn't until our home, we had a 6,000 square foot home leading up to this, it foreclosed. And we literally sold everything on Craigslist in a weekend and fled to Metairie, Louisiana. We had some investment property. We thought, well, let's go there, take the last little bit of what we have, try to fix that up, and maybe we can sell it. And, that'll help sustain us. Well, we got there and found out that the contractor we had hired had been stealing the money. So the pictures that we were receiving via email were not our property. There were actually squatters in the property that we thought was being fixed up. And we ended up having to move into a 600 square foot box of an apartment in Metairie, Louisiana. It was not the best neighborhood. So here we are, newlyweds at this point, and we still have this baby, just the three of us in a city that we don't know. And it, for months we would get eviction notices, we would pay the rent late. I mean, we drove a beat up yellow van that had a hole in the floor. It was just like, how did I go from going to this prestigious university and graduating with honors and thinking that I did all the right things? I treated people well, I operate in integrity, I was a good kid, no one had any problems out of me. And I'm like, how the heck did I get here? And it was the day, you guys, that I had to chase the power man down with my baby on my hip and beg him to turn the lights back on.
Oh my God.
Beg to turn the lights back on. And he said, they're going to just come back and turn it off. And I said, that's fine. I just need a day or two. And I will never forget walking back to that apartment so defeated, trying to soothe my baby. And my husband came in, that afternoon. He had been trying to find work. We had only been entrepreneurs. And at this time, you remember the recession, like how bad this was. Like,
oh yeah,
no one was hiring. If you came from a real estate background, nobody
horrible.
wanted to bother with you.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. You guys, that day he takes the baby on a walk and I get in the mirror and I say, God, you got to do something. Like, I can't take anymore. This is ridiculous. I've been a good person. I am like crying, and then it turns into yelling at God, and then it's just bawling, snotting, ugly cry on the floor, fetal position in this teeny tiny bathroom. And I heard what I refer to as a still small voice. It told me to get my Bible. And I got my Bible and I flipped probably 2 flips. And I ended up on a scripture that has sustained me and is the foundation for why I even do what I do today. And it was Proverbs 17:16. And it said, what good is money in the hands of a fool if they have no desire to seek wisdom? What good is money in the hands of a fool if they have no desire to seek wisdom? That's why my Instagram name is Seek Wisdom.
I love it.
And that day changed my life. And I decided in that moment that even though I was experiencing one of the worst times of my life, I would do what my first grade teacher, Miss Boynton, taught me. First grade teacher, Miss Boynton said, Patrice, when you know something, you have a responsibility to share with friends. It's not good enough that you know. You have a responsibility to share with friends. So when we talk about the Redefining Wealth podcast having 20 million downloads, we just celebrated our 7-year anniversary. It has literally, thank you so much. It has literally just been from this deep sense of responsibility that as I learn, as I grow, as I evolve, as I mature, as I change, I have a responsibility to share with friends. And every single person, even your listeners here at the iDarling podcast, like, you're friends now. We're friends. So anything that I have is yours.
Patrice, in that moment when thank you for sharing your story. I feel very deeply moved by every word that you spoke, and chills and tears, like Aaron said, because it does feel very emotional. And to think of how you got from that moment where you asked for God's help and you were guided, and you're still in that very low moment, but you find that beautiful Proverbs 17:16 Proverbs. Thank you. Then you do what? Like, because I think
Yeah.
we're probably talking to people right now who feel like they're at their low point. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of people right now struggling. We know this. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
noise. And I also want to talk about your silence and how you do that. I really think that is something that we need to talk and share today. But first, to the people that feel like they're in their low point, and how did you move like one foot in front of the other from that moment forward?
I'm so glad that you framed it that way, Lisa, because it truly was just one foot in front of the other. Um, I think sometimes when people hear someone's story and because they hear a condensed version, it's like, oh, well, they went from this to that. Oh, baby, no. Oh, darling, no.
Oh,
Right?
darling. No, darling.
No, darling. That is not how it went.
No.
It was definitely a path, right? And the first thing, honestly, that I want to make sure that I give voice to is when I felt that scripture downloaded, one of my first thoughts was like, okay, well, God, are you calling me a fool? Because I really don't need to be kicked while I'm down, right? Like the scripture says, what good is money in the hands of a fool? And I'm like, I thought I was smart all this time. I mean, I got good grades, honor roll, certifications, passed the broker's exam on the first try. And something compelled me to go look up the difference between knowledge and wisdom. I was like, because I would use them interchangeably. And that's where I learned that knowledge was the gathering of information and education, but wisdom was how do you apply it? And Lisa, it hit me. I was really great at gathering information, right? And taking the test. But many of us are information gatherers. We now in our season, in culture now, we can listen to all the podcasts, we can read all the books, we can save all the reels and try to gather as much information as we can. And we have access to more information than we ever have in the history, like of our world, right? But we don't take the time to integrate and apply. We don't necessarily always take the time to quickly integrate what we've learned and apply it. And it's like, when do I apply it? With whom do I apply it? How does this look? Because we're always waiting for perfection. And I'm grateful for my early entrepreneurial journey that taught me that this was not ever going to be about perfection, just obedience. And so obediently, I started to do the small things. A couple days later, I ended up going to Starbucks. I was walking with my daughter and I was in Starbucks not to buy coffee because Lord knows I didn't have $4 for coffee like that. I just stopped to get water. I lived in Louisiana. It was hot as hell. Okay. And so I stopped and there are these women that are, in Starbucks and they have babies and they're like all gathered around with laptops. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, I want to have friends. Remember, I'm there with nobody, right?
Yeah.
So one of the ladies comes up to get a lid and she's like right next to me. And I was like, oh, are you guys like a mommy group? Because I'm new here. And she goes, oh, we're mom bloggers. And I'm like, I've never heard the term blog. I ran a brick and mortar business. So I really wasn't into all the online things. I was still old school, paying everything by hand, and checks and all those things. So I go, well, what is that? And she explains the concept of a blog. And so it hit me. I was like, I don't know if I would talk about Reagan, but what if I shared that scripture? And so the idea started to percolate. And of course, there's always, when you get those ideas and nudges, there's like the little devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. So the little devil is like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Right? Look at your life. Look at what you have going. What do you have to offer? And the angel on the other shoulder said, you lost all your money, but your mind isn't bad. Yeah, you don't currently have the money, but you know what to do. How many clients did you help get out of debt in order to buy their first home? How many people did you help like them raise their credit? How many people would have never saved that down payment had they not come through one of your classes? Because my real estate business grew because I was in Southern California teaching classes, going to churches and nonprofits and doing a lot of groundwork back then. And so even that, I never thought that I would become a transformational speaker. I was just speaking to educate, to move people into my real estate business. That was it. And so it was piece by piece that I believe God started to reveal things to me. And I'm so glad that I had learned that just do what you can with what you have at each step, and trust
Mhm.
that the next instruction will come once you've been obedient to this one. And I started a blog. This is March 9th, 2009 is when I had my bathroom floor moment, I call it. And I started a blog shortly thereafter. I don't remember the time frame, within a few weeks though. And that blog turned into me writing for other websites eventually. By 2011, I was writing for Black Enterprise and Upscale Magazine. By 2012, I had moved to Atlanta to live on my brother's couch. So this is still, I was living on my brother's couch. And I ended up volunteering at a financial education nonprofit. I quickly became one of the top performers for my position all across the country. And people would go, why do your clients get such good results? Like, why do your people
Mhm.
stick around? What's going on? And I'm like, can I tell you a secret? I only use a fraction of y'all's curriculum. Like, I was building my own curriculum because I had worked with people anyway beforehand, helping them get ready for the home buying process.
Mhm.
So a lot of what I knew intuitively, later I would find out was actually financial psychology, which is why I ended up getting an MBA in financial psychology and behavioral finance. But I was doing all of the principles with my clients intuitively. It wasn't until 2013 that I really got, some would say, my big break, and just started speaking all over the place.
Mhm.
And then in 2014, I ended up on the Steve Harvey Morning Show. I was supposed to go one time to launch my book, Real Money Answers for Every Woman, at
Mhm.
that time, January 2014. And they loved it so much, and the people loved it so much, they kept inviting me back. And the next thing you know, I had a weekly segment. And I did that for 4 years. And then I launched the Redefining Wealth podcast 7 years ago.
Wow.
You know, I
So
still
good.
have chills. I don't think they've left since we've started talking. But like I feel like a lot of this is because you're just so real. Like you said, I mean, we all hear we see the end point, right? We don't see the journey and the success and the falls and the setbacks and everything.
Mhm.
But I feel like your whole journey has been about being raw and real. So people can look at you and like I can picture you on the couch of your brother, but while your mindset is faith driven to say, like, I can do this with him, like, I can do this. And so I can only
Mhm.
imagine, I mean, your truth is setting people free, of letting them know
Mhm.
that there is hope and that there is purpose. And I can only imagine your daughter and what she has learned over the years. My goodness.
Mhm.
So you're not in Atlanta anymore. Tell us. I
I
mean,
am.
oh, you are?
I'm back in Atlanta.
You're
I moved
back
back
in
to
Atlanta.
Atlanta 4 years ago.
Okay.
Well, right before the pandemic. I moved back in 2019.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the whole when you were in the Starbucks and you went in and you weren't ordering coffee, you didn't have the money. I just have to go back to this for a second because I'm just thinking about people that are listening right now, and like I feel what really comes out of you is this beautiful energy where I'm afraid I wouldn't have asked. Like I have such a shy
Mhm.
side, and I guess I just want to say I admire that so much. And I feel like that is so hopeful because you were definitely there for a reason. Obviously.
Oh
I
my
mean, it
gosh.
started this ball rolling to this next career. And I like that whole moment freaks me out because I just think about it and I think, would I have asked? Would I have
Mhm.
said something if I was alone with my baby? It's Reagan, right? Your daughter's
Yeah,
name. If
yeah.
I was alone with my baby and I didn't even have money for a coffee, like I hope I would. And I hope other people will. You know what I mean? Because we're all put in these situations and locations for a reason, I
Mhm.
believe. And that just really hit me when you said that you were smart enough or eager enough, or I don't know, or God just had you ask.
I was compelled, and I have to tell you, Lisa, I'm not always compelled, right? I've been in spaces and situations where I have looked back and said, I wonder if I should have said something, or I wonder
Mhm.
if I should have introduced myself. And then I just come back always to the knowing that everything that is for me is for me. Like nothing that is mine can pass me. And usually if I'm not compelled to speak, or even, I fly a lot, right? Sometimes I am compelled to be chatty, McGee with the person next to me. And sometimes I just don't feel led. And I'm learning to trust that either way it goes, right?
that.
No matter what, no matter what, whatever is for me will get to me in one way or another. But I can look back at so many things that have happened on this journey. And I tell people all the time, purpose is illogical. Like this journey is illogical. And I think what holds people back is wanting this guarantee that when they take this step, it's going to give them this result. And while that might be the thing that inspires you to take the step, we can't be attached to how it unfolds. Lisa Nichols taught me that we have to be committed to the vision, but not attached to how we get there.
Hey there, darlings. We wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about something super exciting.
That is right, Lisa. And if you're inspired by any of our conversations, but you still feel like you're stuck in place, trapped in guilt and in self-doubt, and in the feeling that you are not enough, but you are still yearning for more time, more self-confidence, and more fulfillment in your life, this is just exactly for you.
We would like to introduce to you our transformative course, Get Unstuck in 10 Days, in which you'll gain practical steps and knowledge to break through those barriers holding you back and start living the life you truly deserve.
Absolutely, Lisa. Whether you're looking to switch it up, switch your mindset, kick those bad habits to the curb, or set meaningful goals aligned with your values, this course will open new doors just for you.
Plus, by enrolling in Get Unstuck in 10 Days, you'll not only get access to valuable lessons and resources, but also join a supportive community of like-minded individuals on a journey to personal growth and empowerment.
So what are you waiting for? Head over to our website at idecide.io and enroll in Get Unstuck in 10 Days today. Let's make those positive changes together.
And don't forget, darlings, stay tuned for more insightful conversations right here on the I Decide Darlings podcast. Thanks for listening.
And
I love Lisa Nichols.
I love Lisa. That has allowed me to really have a journey that is just ever evolving, and I expect it to evolve. I'm not attached to anything. I wasn't attached to the podcast making it to 7 years. I was more committed to the original vision I had, which was just to spread the message, and that wealth is so much more than money and material possessions. The true meaning of wealth is the condition of well-being and happiness. That was the 12th century definition. And the further we've gotten from that, the more we are constantly toiling and striving and forcing and pushing instead of attracting and allowing. And what I teach from is more about when we are working on the other parts of our lives that impact our finances, we create the space to attract the abundance that we desire. But as long as we're pushing and forcing and toiling, it restricts that, right? It doesn't make room for it to come, because the space that is created comes in who you become in the process. It comes in who you get to meet along the journey. It comes in like creating the space for these fresh revelations and downloads and ingenuity and creativity. But when we have this fixed mindset about what it has to look like, we throw out all these other possibilities. And the reality is you don't know what you don't know yet. So leave room.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, we said you don't know what you don't know. I'm having this moment in my head of like, you've been on dozens of media outlets, and your life now compared to like, what would you tell that girl who was sitting in the hospital for, by the way, which is so crazy because most women, I think, well, who do I know? Most women are sent home for bed rest. Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking too, part of God's plan too. I mean, you were in the hospital for that long, racking up that debt, which was all part of his plan,
Part of the
you
plan.
know,
Mhm.
and when you fast forward, I'm picturing you talking to Dr. Oz, talking to Steve Harvey, like, what is that girl who is sharing beautiful, wealthful information? What are you telling that girl who's back on that bed rest?
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that, Erin.
Oh,
Um, I am telling her that everything works out.
yeah.
Everything works out for your good,
Mhm.
and keep leaning into what you feel led to do.
Mhm.
Um, don't ever make the journey about what you think you should do. Lean into what you desire, what you want to do, what feels good,
Mm.
and stay true to the call.
Mm.
You know,
Wow.
that lesson has served me really well in my life is
Mhm.
because I really listen. I really listen. And when I read about your silence, I really would love to ask you some questions about that because
Mhm.
I feel as if so many people get lost along their own professional journey. And just speaking about being an entrepreneur really first, but it's also in personal life as well,
Mhm.
because they really don't listen to the inner body that's telling you something. And
Mhm.
um, I've watched this over and over actually with people that I've worked with or coached in our business, in our health and wellness business. And it's upsetting at times because I feel like if we really get quiet and turn off the TVs and turn things off and ignore that noise long enough, we know the answer. It's in us,
Mhm.
and we can find it and we can then act on it. But tell me about your silence. I read that you can spend many many hours every day, sometimes 5 hours in silence.
Mhm.
So will you share a little bit about that and what it's done for you to have those moments where you really go quiet?
Um, I don't think I would be here without those moments, honestly. I think
Mhm.
the ability to tune out the noise that is the world that is always fighting for our attention, um, is the fastest way to not be clear on your own intentions. Like, giving attention to all of that is why I believe so many of us don't get to what we say we want sooner, quicker, faster.
Mhm.
Um, I learned when I was in middle school the practice of quiet time. So it was a church. I went to like a summer camp church thing, and we got into the habit of quiet time, and they would talk about spending time with God first thing in the morning and taking like 30 minutes to be quiet, to journal, to pray, and to read your word. And so that idea of being still in the morning um, started as a thing for me in middle school. I wasn't always consistent, but I have found that it's always a thing that I would come back to. um,
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily have a concept for meditation until I was in my 20s. Um, and then I started adding meditation just to kind of keep me grounded. But I just realized that I have so many amazing ideas when I just listen to myself. And when we keep looking to the left and to the right and looking to get our inspiration from others, like, there's nothing wrong with being inspired by other people. I think that's fine, of course. We're all inspired by other people, but I
Mhm.
don't want to be an imitation of anyone else. Like, I want to have what I wanna be clear about what I'm here to do. And I
Mhm.
honestly think from coaching my own clients, the reason that I see people um, are afraid of the stillness sometimes is because they haven't learned to discern their voice from other people's voices.
Mhm.
And when you start to discern, and one of the ways we discern, right, is asking ourselves when a thought comes up, who said?
Mhm.
Who said it has to look like this? Who
Mhm.
said it has to be this way? Who said? And then the next question would be, what do I really want?
Mhm.
Not what I think society would be applauding, not what I think would be acceptable to my parents or my spouse or my children. Just what do I really want? So between who said to start to dismantle all of these limitations that we put on ourselves, and then what do I really want? You can start to discern when something is your voice, your truth, like your desire versus other people. And I've just spent a lot of time being quiet. So now when people say to me different things, I literally will be like, yeah, no, no. Yeah, I don't receive it. Like one of my favorite phrases, I don't receive that. Oh, you should write a children's book. No, that like if you were confirming something that had already come up for me, potentially. But I also have learned too that a lot of times we don't want to lean into what we hear in that quiet time because it might be an uncomfortable choice. It could be an uncomfortable solution. It could make other people upset. And so we don't want to be responsible for honoring what we heard. So instead of trusting what is within, and if you are a person of faith, of any kind of faith, not just Christianity, but if you are not leaning into what's above and what's within, and you only keep looking out, it's because you want to have some place to put the blame when things don't work out the way that you want. But this goes back to that detachment from the result. Yes, I have goals. Yes, I have things I want to do, but I also leave room for flexibility and for my humanity. Right. So I know that was a long answer, Lisa,
No,
but
it's so good though.
yeah, I do. I try to build in thinking time on my calendar. Sometimes we'll just block, 4 or 5 hours in the day. And it's not that I'm sitting there like in kumbaya style or anything.
Yeah.
It's just not having so many meetings, not having to engage with so many people and taking so much energy. And for me to just, sometimes say, God, what do you want from me in this season? And just allow it to flow. I did that the other night and I came out with 15 pages in my journal, and it literally transformed what I'm about to do at my live event in October. I was asking God, like, should I just teach the same thing I did last year? Because, good content is great content. It's wonderful content, and people had such breakthroughs last year, but there was that feeling that there was more. And I'm like, God, what's the more? And I've been kind of mulling over it. And when I gave myself that quiet time, my honey wasn't here and my daughter was with her dad, and I was just alone. I took like the whole evening and I journaled for 15 pages, and it just threw me into a deep sleep. And then I start waking up in the middle of the night and adding layers to it because I could see it as I was asleep. I could see how it was playing out on stage. And this is a process, that I've had for years now. And it's always better than trying to force anyone else's blueprint. I believe in coaching. I am a coach, but I always tell my clients, you have the right to reject any advice that does not feel aligned with what you feel assigned to do. I can only speak from my best practices, but if it does not align for you, leave it where it is. It doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make me bad. It doesn't make you wrong for not following it. We both are on our own authentic journey. And so don't lean into all of this and then be upset that you didn't get my results. This was my path. I'm just giving you a glimpse into what, a potential path can look like for you.
I didn't learn that till my 50s. I'm going to be really honest.
50, not you.
Almost 57, but I didn't learn it till later in life. And I admire this lesson so much because I wish I would have learned it as a younger woman. And in business for myself, my whole career, I wish I knew that, because I always felt like I had to do what everyone else told me to do, even when it conflicted with my gut. And, like if they said, oh, well, to have success, you must do this. You have to only sleep 5 hours a night. Well, you know what? I need more hours in a night, but I would do whatever every flipping person and every coach would tell me. And so I love the way you coach your people. Like that to me is huge. I'm wondering, where are you going to be live in October? Are you going to be at Higdon's or?
No, Redefining Wealth Live. My event is October.
Your event. Okay.
In Atlanta.
Okay,
yeah.
Redefining. We need to definitely have that in our show notes for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So see you.
I'm excited too. Redefining Wealth Live. So I am recently divorced too. So I say recently, but it's 2 years since the divorce was final, 3 years not together, right? And that was another I decide moment, because it really informed these last few years in ways that I would not have imagined. If you would have asked me several years ago, you guys, if I loved myself, I'd be like, yeah, look at all the things I'm doing. Look how wonderful, look how great. But after a 15-year marriage, where I also, Lisa, did everything that people told me to do. So I grew up churchy, and I still love God to this day, but I will say I feel like I got poor indoctrination around what a wife should be and what a person, a human being, should tolerate. And I had learned to just pray and pray harder and forgive and pray some more and forgive again. And I was in my professional life, I was excelling tremendously, and I was definitely a public success. But there were always pieces of me, no matter how beautiful all the photos looked and how big the house and how many cars and how wonderful the vacations and all this stuff. There was always a piece of me that felt like I deserve to be loved better than this. Like, I deserve more. I deserve a honest, kind, consistent, gentle, patient love. Like, I deserve all of these things. And I did the same process that we were just talking about. It was like, well, who said that you just have to keep doing this? And then it was like, well, what do you really want? So I journaled 5-6 pages literally about what I wanted and how that type of love felt, and like the visuals that I could see for it and all those things. And I decided to leave a 18-year, relationship, 15-year marriage. I decided to release myself so that I could be a public success and a private success to me, for the example for my daughter, like for every single way. And liberating myself liberated him, and liberating myself, I have even seen it. I was 41 learning to date again, and my daughter was 14 coming in to like her dating era, right? Like starting and stuff. And it was an opportunity for me to teach her through example about how to honor what you need, want, and desire, and how to say for yourself. And she learned this at 14 years old, and I see it in her at 17, that you get to decide, you get to choose, you get to select. We are not just going by, well, a man who findeth the wife, and now we have to sit around and act like, they're interviewing us. I'm like, no, you get to interview. Dating is collecting data. It is being able to say, oh, I like this, or I don't like that, or oh, yeah, this work, right? This has been such a beautiful journey of self-love and self-discovery, and just added to what I was already doing and those practices I already had. And Redefining Wealth Live is where I get to share all of that. So we have women coming from all over the world, but they are also in that moment where they're deciding something different. We call it in my community dreaming a new dream. And so whether it's your career, or you're becoming an empty nester, or it's love again, or any of those things, it is a space where we get to go through the Redefining Wealth continuum that has emerged. And the first part is awakening. We cannot redefine anything if we don't allow ourselves to be radically honest and get off autopilot with these behaviors. This is where who said comes in. And then redefining, so that we're not creating a new life based on old beliefs. And then actualizing, what does it look like to walk that out boldly and confidently with conviction, and not be attached to other people's ideas or thoughts about what you were walking out? Because that's a big one for a lot of us. Lisa, Aaron, we don't do the things because we're like, well, I don't want my friends to think that I'm in a crisis. I don't want my family to think. We are like, enough of that. What do you think? What do you believe? What do you feel? And this feels really, really good. I feel like I'm in the most aligned work of my entire career.
I love it.
Patrice, I have learned so much about you in this past hour, but about myself too. And I know that people listening are doing just that. Like, we started out this talking about, you are drop dead gorgeous. also because of what's coming out of you from within. And I know that now, like hearing your voice. And I mean, Reagan is the luckiest girl on the I mean, I have a 15 and a 16-year-old. So for them to be hearing the truth that you're sharing, she is like, but I think I want to be at your event too. So we need
Oh my gosh, come. I would love to have you.
We need to put all of that information on there, because I can only imagine the surface that we have scratched over this past 40 plus minutes of what I would love to hear more of. And I know everybody else would as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I would love to have you. And yeah, Reagan calls me her best friend all the time. And when I hear her talking to her friends, it gives me so much joy, because I didn't have the level of confidence and clarity at 16, 17 years old that I hear from her. And I hear her on the phone with her friends like, girl, you deserve better. He's inconsistent. I'm like, yes. If
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Which is not easy. I mean, that's a whole other podcast in itself of 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old girls, and what they think they want, and social media. Girl, we could talk about that all day long. But I mean, the fact that she's getting that from her home, and I'm going to try, and we're going to have to let you know, I'm going to say to them, what is it? That's not working for me. What did you say when people
I don't receive it?
I don't receive it. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that when they get home today. When I hear something, I don't receive that.
I'm gonna use the who said.
Who said? Who said? Yeah.
I love that. Well, we haven't even talked about your book, Redefine Wealth for Yourself. And I know in that book you talk about 6 pillars. Do you want to give a little nugget?
Sure.
We want them to get your book, to order your book, to listen to it, to read it. But tell us a little nugget about the book.
Yeah, Redefine Wealth for Yourself was really based on over 100 practices, rituals, routines, kind of what you asked me about, Lisa, that have helped shape my life and that of my clients, because I've been teaching this for over 7 years now. And so it's based on what I call the 6 pillars of wealth. And these are all the parts of your life that impact your finances, even when you're not thinking about it. So the first pillar is fit. And you guys would love this. Of course, it's fit. It's about becoming your best self. It's about not just being physically fit, but also mentally fit. What we say is, if you have a vision for your life, something that you see, you're dreaming that new dream, you have one vessel, and you got to protect the one and only vessel that's going to help you execute the vision, right? So that comes before anything else. The second pillar is people. It's about creating relationships that matter. One big takeaway for me that I learned really early in my life, in my career, is that there's always someone watching you who has the power to bless you. But who are they watching you be? How do you show up in relationship, both personally and professionally? The third pillar is about space. It's about setting up your life to support you. And so we say that clutter represents the physical manifestation of chaos in your mind. And anytime you are feeling stuck in any area of your life, I just invite you to take a look at the physical environment that represents that. You want to start to get clear in that area, start to clear up the physical pieces of what represents that area. And it's like magic, like how things start to flow, right? Because energy gets stuck in all the stuff. And then there is faith. Faith is about believing in something greater. I never care what people say they believe in, because I honor and respect anyone's beliefs. My community is international. We have 43 countries represented in our students. So there's no judgment from me. I'm just always going to be true about what my beliefs are, but I hold space for yours as well. And so the faith pillar is about believing in something greater, which just says like, hey, this journey is going to come with ups and downs, and you want to be connected to something so you don't fall for everything. That's it, right? And that's where our resilience comes from. And I think even when you think about my story, it's just like layers of resilience. That's really what you're hearing. And so much of that is rooted in that quiet time and in that faith pillar for me. The fifth pillar is work. It's about living your life's purpose. I don't believe everyone has to be an entrepreneur to live their life's purpose. I think that many of us are using the right gift in the wrong ministry. And by ministry, I mean marketplace, in the wrong space with the wrong people. And it'll make you question the thing that you were called to do. You were born with purpose, on purpose, for purpose. And you have gifts that you can take out there and use in a powerful way. Doesn't have to be in your own business, but it's the thing you want to do instead of forcing yourself to do something completely out of alignment. Because when you do, most people, when you are unfulfilled in what you do day in and day out, you tend to mismanage your finances on an even greater level. When you're doing something that fuels you and brings you joy, it gives space for you to chill out with all the online shopping and all the other. And then the last pillar is money. And money is about attracting the prosperity you desire. And so while I'm not a hardcore personal finance person anymore, I did that for years, but I definitely think that was a part of my purpose evolution. I definitely like to lean into some of the other practices and principles that are really just about, I don't necessarily call it manifestation, but I do call it like getting in line to attract the money that you desire, and then to have respect for it. Like, just to have respect for it alone goes such a long way, because there's a million ways that people can make $1 million. But when you're cluttered with all the other things, you don't have the capacity to do the things that are right in front of you. And so those are the 6 pillars of wealth. That's what we leverage in our community. And then I layer that with the authentic alignment tools that keep you on track with what feels good for you in each one of those pillars.
Oh, fabulous.
Wow. I know I'm going to buy the book.
Oh, yeah. I'm ordering it. Well, Patrice, thank you for all that you are as a beautiful person and human. I mean, we really appreciate your time today and teaching and sharing your wisdom that you did with us and your story. And we just, I just love you. I swear, when I just was reading up on you and learning about you before I even got to meet you, I messaged Erin because I was so excited to meet you. I said, this woman is incredible. And you stand for things that I love and appreciate so much. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with the darlings today. We just loved it.
Oh, I loved being here. You guys are phenomenal. As I said at the beginning, you are darling. It is an honor to be in your presence. And thank you for allowing me to share my story with your tribe.
Oh, we loved it. And I will say, yes, she texted me last night and it said, I am so freaking excited. And now we know why, because you are freaking awesome. And this has been such a blessing. And I hope our audience enjoys it. I know that they will as much as we have. And please share this out, because there is so much wisdom and there are so many nuggets within today that you almost need to go back and listen to it again and again. So thank you for being a darling with us today on the I Decide Darlings podcast. And we will see you soon, everybody. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.
You've been listening to the I Decide Darlings podcast. If this podcast touched your heart, please share it with your friends and family right after you subscribe yourself.
Don't forget to head over to iDecideBook.com and grab a copy of our favorite book and daily journal. As always, thank you for being here, and we can't wait for you to hear our next episode.